Today is Tuesday, February 16, 2016, afternoon work session.
Do we want to go on the qualifications, or do we want to talk about who we're going to hire to do the search? Who wants to start this discussion?
Why don't we ask Steve? Why don't we ask Joe to look up the last search that we did, what the qualifications were? Probably have to go back to.
Well, look what we got.
Have to go back to Gary North.
Yeah.
Because we don't have a regular job description, but but we've given you some.
Reading through some of these.
Yeah, we've given you some samples of job descriptions. Some districts choose on their advertisement just to talk about leadership qualities, which is a little bit different than a job description. Because what you're really, from your perspective, certainly at some point you want to know what are the responsibilities, but even more so you want to know what are the qualities you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, let me just give you here, so can pass these back there too. So FSBA is currently working on the, or maybe they have just completed by now, I'm not quite sure, the Osceola superintendent search. They just finished, I think they just did hire. And this is their new process, which is different than it had been previously. But I just copied for you the flyer that they developed, and on the back it has the leadership qualities they were looking for, which is another way you can.
They're pretty close inside. They're a little larger than us. At the FSBA meeting, they raved about the process. Osceola said it was wonderful.
Yeah.
It was the best superintendent search
And
they
they
ever
used
had.
FSBA?
Yeah, this was
I'm
FSB.
thinking we did. Were you around with North? You weren't around with North. I'm thinking we used FSBA.
Yes, you did, for Gary Norris. I don't think this district's ever gone outside of FSBA. Sometimes they've done internal, but they have
But
never
I'm saying
done.
when we did an outside search for Norris, we used.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure we used.
Right, it was which has changed now, in terms of their process. It's been tweaked, and this is the first search that was conducted with the new process. So it's not quite the same as it was under Wayne Blatty.
Good.
Well,
Good result.
I have a question. So I understand when we spoke, the process is whether or not we hire a search firm, and then that search firm ends up helping us with the process moving forward.
Right,
Okay.
right. Because each of them has their little nuances.
Own way.
The basic steps are the same, but nuances are different, and you'd like them to be identified.
They do all the calling, basically, for FSBA, or search company would generally do all the initial.
Well, and
They
set
also
up the
help with the job
process.
description and
Yes, they
qualifications,
just kind of
community
navigate,
input, all of
yeah,
that.
all of that.
So the whole.
And you still have input in terms of you want a community forum. I mean, they would start kind of having a discussion with the board about major steps in the process, where different districts, where they might recommend this, but you want to do it this way, the nuances. But that's why I think it's important. Certainly, job description is something that we could continue work on, but beyond that, in terms of the actual process, you want to have the firm identified to help navigate through that. So that's why I felt the two critical things, and most critical to me, is the direction you want to go with the search firm.
Right. And
What does it cost to use them? Miss Caroline?
I did tell you, I brought it back and now I can't remember.
I think it's in the neighborhood of $30,000. $30,000.
no Wi-Fi.
It's not giving me an option here.
I think it's 30,000.
It's in that
Yeah,
neighborhood.
that's the number that.
And we have to RFP 50,000 and above.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. And there have been some RFPs that have been done. We haven't found one, interestingly enough, where they did the RFP and they actually went through. I mean, there've been
Well, that's what you said, which
some
is-
craziness where they did the RFP, they identified an outside firm, and then they decided to hire an interim, so they didn't need them, and so they paid for the cost of the firm. So, I mean, there was those kind of situations. And I gave you information at the very beginning of where there were a couple of situations where an outside firm had conducted previously, and that may have not been an RFP, it may not have been necessary to have an RFP, but they did they solicited firms that were interested and then asked them to come do a presentation to the board, so it was not an true RFP process, but they conducted the search. It is, Florida is not an attractive state to a lot of search firms,
And I was going to say that, Shirley, Lori, having been through it before, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm going to make the pitch for using FSBA.
That's right.
Because they do have the Florida experience.
Yes.
Florida's a very different thing, and, you know, I know what happened last time, and it was with Gary Norris, and even though FSBA did it, the problem was you couldn't get Florida people. And I don't know that you get Florida people this time, but you just couldn't get Florida people to apply because of sunshine.
Right.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
But could we try just to get?
Because they can't go out and kick the tires.
They're out, yeah.
Yeah, if they're out there, they're out there.
You know?
You know what I'm saying, because, I mean, somebody has to really understand this quirky state too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not only
The funding and everything.
yeah.
But Frank brings up an interesting point that if a Florida superintendent is out there looking,
Or an assistant, if, you know, depending on what your qualifications are.
or yeah, and this,
Yeah, probably the more
if
likely.
anybody in Florida is looking, it's public records.
Yeah.
No, not until the board gets the name. Up until that
Sure.
time, it's not.
Right.
Well,
FSBA.
still the point still is, then your home district knows what's going on, and your home board knows what's going on, and then you're.
So
Then you have to.
if they just go through FSBA and then never,
If-
although,
Say you get 20 people that apply, but you won't, but say you get 20 people to reply. You can
To
ask them
FSBA.
to whittle it, yes. You can ask the FSBA to whittle it down to 5 people, so, you know, and so we don't know who the other 15 were, so their names are not out there. But once we know, then it becomes public record.
So, if I don't, what I would suggest is this, that I contact FSBA and ask them to give a presentation to the board on the specifics of their process,
Right.
and schedule that for a workshop. And it will be in the morning, it will be televised so everyone can kind of hear that presentation. Is that agreeable?
Yes.
and some of the things we'll have to decide is the contract term and the salary. Will we do it then, or?
You know, I think, let's just have them kind of set the stage. Certainly, one of the first stages is the advertisement, which it does include that range. And that's why, because this is something they've just done, I wanted you to look at this. And certainly, it would be open for modifications, but it gives you kind of some work that they have just completed and it's recent. So I think we could at least start from that presentation, and they could walk us through what the process, and if everyone is agreeable, then we could move on from that point.
So that will be the end of March.
I have to
No,
schedule.
we don't have, oh yeah, we do have a morning one. We don't have an afternoon march, right?
Correct.
Right.
It will be when they're available, too. So as soon as that can be scheduled during a regular workshop. And I think you're still well within the timeline in terms of this development. You know, this was their advertisement. This probably was released sometime like in September, so they probably started developing it in August or so for advertisement from mid-September to the end of October.
Just to be a devil's advocate, if they were not available for Wednesday morning, what is it, the 22nd? And we've got a short kind of time frame because of the teacher year, which we may. Would you be opposed to if we had to go to a special meeting,
No.
say 4 o'clock on the first
I'm fine with it.
Tuesday of March?
Fine with that.
Let me first see if they're available, and if not, we'll
But what's
just,
the, well, I mean, if we
You
wait
may not
until
be
the
here.
I'll
April,
just get them.
if we wait
We'll
until
get
the
someone to
April board
babysit.
meeting, or
Car
work
show.
session, is that getting us behind the eight
Too
ball?
late, too late.
Well, we also have,
There's a lot of things that have to occur in between there, so you just gotta leave yourself enough time.
so we
Yeah,
have to
I
A,
would-
hire them, and then B, come up with this, and then we have
I
to
like
make
this.
actions on the term and the I mean, we have to look at the term and the salary before they can print this up.
Right.
Or would we be doing that all at the same meeting? I mean, I think we
well,
need
let's
to be
just do
looking at
first
those
things
things.
first. Let me just see if I can get them in March. If not, we'll poll the board to see what your pleasure is
Right.
in terms of the other options. They might, let's
I
take
would
it a
just,
step.
but I would, not that I don't trust everything you say, Caroline, but, I mean, they would know how long
They
they need
know,
to take, so
and if
maybe
they-
ask them if
I
they say
would-
April will be fine and you'll meet our timeline.
I will be happy to get that input from them if they can't do it in March.
I will do it right away.
And is it possible, kind of to your point, if we need to do a special session specifically in this being, if that, on that date, they're not available, but,
You are going to have your baby the first week of March, though, aren't
Mhm,
you?
but I-
Oh, but you're available on the first.
I will be here on the first. I will be. I will.
You just have a talk with that little one.
Wait, no, that was the plan. I'll talk to Zoe about calling in the event I'll be
Will
to
you
them, but
be- will you be available on the 10th to come
Yes,
in?
yeah. Yes,
Really?
maybe. I don't know if I can walk yet.
No.
I can call. We have technology. That's what we can use.
Yeah, we'd rather have you there in person, though.
But I don't want to delay, we can't delay it, we can't, and that's fine, so
Apparently, we're behind the eight ball.
I am fine
We're
with,
fine. Relax.
but.
We're fine. I will gather the information.
And we will
We'll,
deal with whatever tech, and we'll use
Whatever.
technology.
Some people are more
to
anxious to get rid of
bridge
you than
any
others,
issues.
What
apparently.
about a GoPro?
Skype, I'll Skype it.
Yeah.
I'm not
Okay.
worried
All right,
about that.
I got
We've
what I
the
need.
resources to-
Well, see, now we're way ahead of schedule. I knew
I
that
think
wasn't
it's
going to
great.
take that long.
Yeah.
Independent tutor directory.
Sorry.
What is that, Bridget?
Well, and this probably won't take too much time, but I think all of us were sent this, correct? Did you all get the email from Jen Stutler? And
Yes.
so that's what's prompting this conversation. This kind of alludes to, one, I wanted to make sure I was clear. I have a couple people in my office who had challenges with getting tutors. So can you clarify what the policy is as far as the district? Teachers are not allowed to tutor.
teachers are not allowed to tutor their own students.
Okay.
Certainly, there are teachers out there who make everyone aware of that their services are available, so they might be recommended by a fellow teacher to provide tutoring. We try to stay out of it. And that is for private or our own employees. It is,
Is there a reason we stay out of it?
Yeah.
Is that what-
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, a
Clarify.
tutoring relationship, although certainly we support or could substantiate teachers' ability to teach based on a certification area. What they do with their private life for their own and for compensation, the only place we speak to it is in policy. You cannot tutor your own students. Beyond that, we try to stay out of it. We do not make recommendations. Because all of a sudden, we could get in the midst of something that is truly something they're doing on their private time rather than us,
Take the speaker off.
if there's becoming an issue.
Duh.
It is even more important in the private sector. I know this from, and I bet this was, 15 years ago. There was a individual who had a grant, and we wrote a tutoring book to help parents. Number one, it's out of date the minute it's printed. And this was back when it was all printed and harder to get access. But it was also, you were, by even just us printing it, we're kind of saying we are approving it.
Correct.
And we are supporting these individuals of which we had very little information. And so certainly there's some confidence of what you do know with your own employees, but even your own
Plus
employees.
you have a liability on
Well,
what
that's
Yes,
where
that
I,
liability.
that's where I saw the
We have
most
always,
sort of-
I have directed parents there's online information. We just say, we're not going to make a recommendation because you bring all that upon you when you try to make a recommendation.
And I understood that being liability being the biggest issue, which we want to obviously eliminate. But where I had heard there being a gap, and so this is, and I think that this kind of came to her point, I think, was that if, for example, and this will hinge upon what you said, which probably will make it potentially not work, but was that if it was like a third-party agreement, and these were multiple different resources that are vetted by local families using them, nothing with us, but we still would have a tie-in for the liability if it was put on our website.
Right, and we
Why don't
just
you have Bridget's
avoided it.
list?
I mean,
Maybe I will. Just add that to my list of things that I'm going to get going on. No, but this is brought up, and I thought it kind of tailored to some other issues that we were talked about earlier, parents really needing help with their students, helping with the new curriculum or what have you, and how are we able to coach them? And so this sounds like not going to be able to do that because of the liability issue.
well, and it's not that. It's all of a sudden we become entangled in something that is truly a private
Managing
sector.
something,
Yes,
correct.
that is not where we should be putting our efforts. And I will tell you, informally, parents that come to the school saying, I'm looking for I know that happens.
Right.
Where they say, I know so-and-so is tutoring, or parents talk to other parents, this is so I know that informal communication, but it's the formalizing it that, with the stamp of the school district, that is of concern.
And are we, kind of the same topic, but not this particular, based on what I had mentioned before, is creating resources for families to help their students with their homework and the various ways. How are we doing on that?
Well, certainly, we're going to be talking about a grant that we have received from the Morancic today at the board meeting that's focused on upgrading our teacher skills. So certainly, that's a piece of this, but in our focus first, particularly at the elementary level, which is where you're hearing more of the
Right.
differences at the elementary level, first is to make sure our teachers have an understanding of how to teach, because they are the primary communicator with the parents. The more comfortable they feel, the more they can make that link, and that's where I find the most benefit occurs, because finally their parents trust their teachers, they know they're getting that accurate information, and so helping our teachers become more confident in how to teach this, and understanding then what role that the parents can play. And our teachers are becoming more and more comfortable, but I think this training is helping that process.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's an event as it is elevating our teachers' confidence and being able to communicate with their parents on what role they can play in this process.
Okay.
There are organizations out there, I know Church of the Palms has after-school tutoring on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I think from 3 to 6. And
So you can go get some more chairs.
the Robert Anderson, isn't that Robert Anderson, what's the
Robert Taylor?
the Taylor organization also does tutoring. But what I think would be beneficial would be for those organizations that tutor to be able to reach out for the district and maybe get some training if they need some training or some help from our district. You didn't hear that, but I might want to reach out to you for, I know that the gal who runs the program at Church of the Palms had reached out to the former principal at Wilkinson and wasn't getting very far on information to the students or information on what it is they need. I know that there are some teachers that are very good, and they know that they're gonna have that tutor that night, and will give them a list of what they should be working on, and others get nothing. But to maybe help to strengthen that relationship, perhaps I might have her come in and talk to you or someone on how we can better strengthen that relationship between the tutors and the students' teachers, which kind of chair, give them some give them some hints on some of the things. Maybe we can get someone over there to talk to them.
Yeah, I mean,
know.
there's some specific things that they can't disclose in terms of how a student, individual student is performing without permission of the parent. And sometimes we have those permissions so
Right.
that we can communicate and say this is where this student needs to have additional work. So certainly, if there is an issue that they feel could be helped with, some general communication of the types of things a tutor could help with, we can link up. It would even be easier at the district level where Sue D'Angelo might be able to sit with them and talk about the skills that tutors could really supplement the work that's being done in this. So we can arrange that.
Would we need those tutors and would we need them background screened?
That was just,
No, because this is,
The church.
that's a private, and, I mean, it's a parent choosing to access a church's tutoring services. So that parent then is responsible for knowing what is the process that the church uses to screen their tutors. But that doesn't mean we can't, because they are doing this work, we can't talk to those tutors in the types of things that would be helpful for students at the different grade levels to reinforce the skills in a general way, but not specific to any one single student.
I just want, yeah,
Sure.
whatever way we can help bridge those, because I think certainly those resources help our teachers also
Sure.
to get our students where they need to be. So, but I completely understand, obviously, needing to handle it separately, but wherever we can bridge the gap in
I
communication.
know some newsletters from elementary schools have been talking about things and sharing things
Yes, they
with
have been.
parents, and how to go online and help with iReady and how to, I mean, I've gone on now, I understand a little more about iReady, but also, having some forums and things, for parents to come in. It's just awfully hard for parents to come in.
Right.
Yep.
So I think the newsletter probably is a one good thing that they can do, but of course that doesn't,
No.
they're not going to do the homework for your child, and a lot of parents would like somebody to just take that right off their hands, but it's a fine line as to what,
How we can do it.
and some people just don't feel equipped to help at all, and they just don't feel like they, and a lot of grandparents, in Wilkinson in particular, there are a lot of grandparents raising grandchildren there, and they really feel quite disconnected with the process. I have trouble with math myself.
I had trouble with the math, the new math that they had when my grandson went to school. And,
I used to teach math, yeah.
well, it just seems they change
Made
it
it harder.
every few years from what it used to be. The next item,
It will not take 15 minutes by any means.
restorative justice.
This was just kind of a follow-up. I had been contacted by members of SURE, and I don't know if any other members here had spoken with them. And I guess my question was whether or not we need to have a workshop in multiple months for it, because I know we had one in October, but as a follow-up to see where it's going, what resources we're putting towards it, is it actually making a difference, kind of. So I would like your feedback and see, or if you want to share with us right now what.
Well, I can give you an update
Okay.
in terms of the training that has continued. Just a reminder, we had, the spring of 2015, we had trained 16 staff from 8 elementary schools on Tier 1 strategies and 21 staff from 8 elementary schools on Tier 2 strategies. This past fall, we trained 44 staff members from 14 elementary schools in Tier 1, 16 staff members from 13 elementary schools in Tier 2 strategies, and 14 elementary guidance counselors, in addition to the 6 already trained as trainers. And we have provided an overview to the school board and to principals and district instructional support staff and our speech and language pathologists. So we've really kind of spread what is this all about.
Right.
We are currently training 102 staff from 20 elementary schools. So it's across all elementary schools. And this June, we're going to train at least one assistant principal from every high school and middle school in the Tier 3 strategies. Elementary APs have also been invited, but it's the Tier 3 strategies is really where you're looking at restorative practices in lieu of suspension, where it is a very defined process. So we would like our assistant principals, at least one at every middle and high school, to have that as another option so that they can look at Tier 3 strategies as appropriate, where it's really defining what is this student going to go back to try to restore the damage that has been done, and so that it becomes more of a learning opportunities in a few days at home that might be more of a vacation for some students. So, so that's the Tier 3 strategies is a little more complex, and so that's why we're taking some time, and that will be with our APs who tend to handle discipline at the middle school and high school. So we have really the Tier 1 and 2 strategies you're going to see in some form at all elementary schools. It has been my experience that we support if something is helpful and is well received, it grows on its own. I have not mandated it at any level. And I think people are wanting. In fact, we have one school that wants it for their entire school staff. And we look for additional resources. We really have spent the budget that we have allocated for it for this year, but we're continuing to look for other dollars, and the schools sometimes bring dollars to the tables because basically if it's during the school day, on a professional day, then the cost is only with the trainers. So we've kept the cost to the minimum. We haven't mandated, which it's continuing to grow, as you can see evidence without the mandate, and I find that mandates sometimes backfire, and people go to a training and then don't implement. But we've continue to get good feedback in terms of, and both, certainly it's been used in the area of social and emotional support in classrooms, but it is also showing a tie-in academically. And in fact, we have conducted meetings with administrators using this, or with other staff using the same process. So, but the training is important, and we really have managed the training so we keep the fidelity of the program. It's not just about a discussion of people in a circle doing a discussion. That's not a circus hall.
Freudian slip.
So, but I'm proud of what we've accomplished in the way that we've done it.
Good, good. Well, and that's all, I wanted to kind of just an update to see, because I
Sure.
know I have a lot of potential in other districts, so.
Can I have this? They're still wanting to talk to me, so I could share
Sure.
that with them.
And what I'll do is,
Sure.
this is a summary of just what I've said. I'll send that to all the board members.
Thank you.
In terms of attachment to an
Good.
email. Okay?
Thank you, because I know they've been still wanting to talk to me, and I thought, well, talking to you was enough, but they still want to talk to me, and I'm like,
You're the chair.
we already had a meeting on this. What is it
Well, I
you
think
want?
the update may have been kind of what they may have been looking for, and
But an update since October?
not, maybe.
Well, we've
People
kept them up to date
fine.
too.
We can then really see results then, I don't know, so. But I think, obviously I don't think the time frame from now to October would be, but as an update, a year or so
Sure.
from, to see where if it's really having that impact, especially from the behavioral
Well-
issues, which we hear concerns from administrators constantly about that, and so if this is something that will help alleviate that.
They're looking at options to lower suspension rates, and I don't know if particularly at the elementary school that you're going to see that immediately, and we're just starting the training for middle and high where it is definitely an option to suspension of a process to use. So I think it's a wait and see. You're not going to see the data that ultimately they would like to see for a while yet, but I think that still is the way to roll this out, as opposed to just saying everybody has to do this and expect everybody to comply.
But I think the growth of the interest level of the staff is a huge indicator of the
Yes,
potential success
I
of it.
agree.
I think that is sufficient.
I agree.
Thank you, that's all for me.
Bayhaven.
This is a follow-up to conversations we've been having over the last several months when we talk of, and this has to do with the Manatee students at Bayhaven. And we've been talking about Charlotte County students, Sarasota County students, Manatee County students. Well, I'm sure Lori had the same conversation with you guys. I'm assuming she did that she had with me. And what really surprised me was the number of, number one, the number of Manatee County students at Bayhaven.
Yep.
Secondly, the fact that these parents, because they're pretty bright, put their names, their kids' names on the list before the kid even has a name, basically, because they're not born yet. So,
That's been going on
I was
for
like, I did.
40 years at Bayhaven.
I understand that, but like I said, and I'm not really comfortable about that, but I'm even less comfortable about the fact that we have 25-30% of the students at Bayhaven are Manatee County students.
Yeah,
And we go back to that same thing with the referendum dollars, and we go back to the same thing about shouldn't Sarasota County parents and students have the first opportunity to go to Bayhaven, and if there's any spots left open, then maybe somebody else, but I'm not comfortable with that, with the position that the district has right now.
And,
Well, and you know, we did, I mean, you may disagree with the process, but
I
we
do.
have, I know, I accept that respectfully. That is the process we have implemented at this point, but to give you some data, and I have a copy of the actual statement, and the idea was so that someone that had already signed up, that they wouldn't feel like the rug had been pulled out from under them, but from this point on, that it would be clear that it would be Sarasota residents would take priority over Manatee. So someone signing up at this point could look at the numbers and know if it's even a
So we're saying
possibility.
5 years from now.
Well,
it'll-
but if you
Well,
look at, let me give you the numbers of the breakdown.
I'm not even sure I mean, why shouldn't somebody that's on that list from Sarasota have an advantage over somebody on the list from Manatee?
You can, but I had a conversation with each of you, so you know the tact I was taking that I felt was the fairest, since it was a rule change from someone who had been on the list for 5 years, and now it's time to go there, and all of a sudden we had changed the rules at that point. So, just to give you a breakdown, for 16, 17, and you remember the number of spots, and let's just focus on kindergarten, because you've got waiting lists at every grade level, that what happens is you have only so many that can go into the kindergarten classroom, and so you generate at that point a waiting list.
And that's generally the entry level into Bayhaven.
It is. The vast majority. There are very few spots. So for discussion purposes, let's just focus on entering into kindergarten, because that's the bulk of which your waiting lists are created by those that don't get in at kindergarten largely. And then they go, if there happens to be a vacancy later on in a successive year, they start calling from those waiting lists, but then people are established in another school typically. But anyway, so let's just focus on entering kindergarten. And there's about 104 to 108 is in the kindergarten class.
Population.
Yes, that they.
On the waiting list or
No,
enrolled?
that's enrolled, so
Okay.
that they,
This year's kindergarten class is
right,
about
104.
104. Okay.
So, right now, the list for entering next year is 214. You have 185 Sarasota residents, 28 Manatee, and 1 out of state.
Now, before you go on there, you've got 214 names for 108 spots or so. So half of
Right.
them are going to
Are-
get
are-
in.
will
Is it
not
1 through 108 to get in, or is
They,
it?
they,
That's how I thought it was, yeah, right?
yes, they start from the one that's been on the list the longest,
Okay.
and they go down. So it was at the point at which they signed up. So predominantly, those are people that have been signed up.
Even out of
For-
state?
Well, out of state where they are intending to move here. Now, they'd have to be a resident to be enrolled, and I don't know where that person is in the list, but there is one out of state. For the 17-18, there are 184 on the list, 158 Sarasota, 25 Manatee, and 1 out of state. For 2018-19, there's 133 on the list. There's 113 Sarasota and 19 Manatee.
That one
don't
out of the
know
lit
where-
state, is that the same one?
No, they would be, because they would be,
State.
the person would be eligible to enter kindergarten on that, in that.
But
Somebody
out
from
of
out of state
those-
with a lot of kids.
So going a couple years down the line, 184, I think you said, total, 25 of them are Manatee, but we don't know where they are.
Where they are on the
If
list.
they're 1
They
through
could be
108
1
or
through 10 or
109.
Typically, if you let me go down one more, you'll
Yeah.
see that if we go down to 2019-20, that this person will be entering, you get to the 104. So basically, everyone who has indicated they want to go to Bay Haven,
For
and
what year?
for 2019-20, they would all get in.
So we're saying
So generally-
1920 kindergarten class at Bay Haven is full.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we don't know that all these ones on the list are
Right.
going to be
They
there.
could be
But
placeholders.
Sure,
You
but
know-
I'm telling you that's generally, you have to have signed up for Bay Haven 2 to 3 years. So you're talking about people that have been on there multiple, prior to
And we don't know that
entry.
this 100 and,
So I just am giving you a flavor of how long these people have been on the list to be able to get in.
Are they updated? Is that list updated every year, or they stay on there until they call and say, take my kid off the list?
They stay on there until it's time to enter kindergarten, and then they make the confirmation, do you still want, so they go through a very defined process of determining that and having parents sign up until they have exhausted. Then all of the rest go on a waiting list and continue on the waiting list until for successive grades where they might be called to, if they want to still enter kindergarten or enter Bay Haven at a later. It is only until you get to 2020-21 that currently you've got 65 on the list. 60 are Sarasota, 5.
Those kids haven't been born yet.
have they been conceived yet?
And 5 are Manatee. And then 2021-22, there are 16 on the list, 15 Sarasota, 1 Manatee. Now,
Is that on the list? That one on the list?
It will be. My Reagan was when she was but she was, actually, it was right when I had the birth certificate.
So
That's how, in
this
advance,
is-
you do it.
this is a statement that has gone on the website to announce the change as directed by the school board. Effective immediately and through May 1st, 2016, new enrollments for the 16-17 school year will be limited to Sarasota County residents and to students who are siblings of current Bay Haven students in the order of registration. And again, they're just dealing with this next year.
This has
but there
already
would
been
be-
published?
Yes, we have to announce it so that otherwise, my suggestion that we keep it status quo, but from now on, so anyone new on the
Grandfather.
list knows from this point on, Sarasota County residents, basically the change, and it will be over time, will eliminate Manatee County totally from participating because there will be not enough room for the Sarasota County. We know that just by the numbers themselves. So eventually that will occur, and from this point on, it would be irrelevant for a Manatee County person to even sign up on one of those very early years because there will be no chance that they would be able to.
Well,
So it will happen, it's just not impacting those that are currently on
I
the list.
agree, but I don't think, they're not our taxpayers and they're not our county
Yeah,
folks. I don't understand why we feel this.
We don't, yeah, I get it.
I agree with
Loyalty.
Frank. I would rather be fair to our taxpayers than fair to these people
Well,
on a list.
They
We
might
can,
be on the list, but it's still fairness, it's a fairness issue.
These
We
have been
were
people that may have been
accepting them
5
until
years,
now.
6 years
what
on
about
this
fair to our
list.
taxpayers?
I'm talking, the principal was very concerned, and I worked with him in establishing the process. He felt he would, and frankly, he'll be the one that'll be the first line when somebody's saying, by the way, we're no longer accepting your, even though you've been on the list for 6 years. So I appreciated his viewpoint and made the recommendation that I did. And we've gone through with what I had indicated I was doing.
And like I said, just as a compromise, you guys know how much I love to compromise. If we left 16, 17 alone and said starting 17 and 18, that Sarasota County students have precedent over Manatee County students, period, then that's a compromise.
Unless the student is a
Because
child of
let's
a
face it,
teacher. If the teacher is in Manatee County, but it's a Manatee County resident, but works in Sarasota,
Well,
then-
now, I'd say if Manatee County parents want their kids to go to Bayhaven, they ought to move to Sarasota County and pay our higher property taxes.
well, all right.
You made an agreement with these people by allowing them.
He didn't.
with the- Shirley.
I'd go
By
ahead.
allowing them to, by telling them they can come on the list. It's not fair to just arbitrarily take them off the list.
They can come on the list, but we don't guarantee them a spot.
Yes,
That's two different
we
things.
do.
No, we don't guarantee them a spot.
We don't guarantee anyone a spot.
What, we don't do
You're kind of
lotteries
making it
for,
sound like you did.
No, we do not do lotteries. It's first come, first serve on this, and it has always
The
been.
charter.
So basically,
right, I'm just wondering if we, like, I don't know how that would actually help at all, but give them, it would just be nerve. I see completely your point,
I do
100%, but I also see your point, and I, you know,
Boy, I would hate for young Reagan not to get in.
she's gonna be in Sarasota County, so it doesn't matter.
No, it might not, if those Manatee
She's
County
already on-
students come
She was like
in.
number 7, so.
Oh, all right.
So, but yes, but because I did that
But you're
myself.
paying those property
That's correct,
taxes
no, but
and
I,
those
so I see it
referendum
on both, I
dollars to
see it
support it.
personally from both sides, because I, prior to being on this board, I mean, talking to parents, it's what you do, and you hear about what best schools to go to or what have you. I put her on the list literally as soon as I got released from SMH, like that's how early. And that's how early you had to, and there were already 6 children in front of me. And so I get the concept of these families having prepared for their child to go to Bayhaven, and you know, they prepared and got them on, but I don't really, quite frankly, as elected officials for Sarasota County, you want to put them in the best interest, so I very much, I see what you're saying, I
Well,
don't,
it's mostly parents that work in Sarasota County.
right.
And they'll do anything to get a child in a Sarasota school. They think.
Except move here and pay
Except move here
taxes.
and pay taxes, that's exactly
Well,
right.
so
That's
there's a
because
valid,
they're too expensive here. It's too expensive to live here.
Yeah, that's what they all say.
Well, that's why we have number 2 district in the state.
But really, I've only heard from Manatee parents that were complaining about something at Bayhaven. I've never had a Sarasota parent call me and complain about anything at Bayhaven. It's interesting.
To me, it's an agreement that we made, and we have to honor that agreement.
Says Caroline,
Okay,
and I disagree.
I know.
so do I. I agree with Brian.
Maybe have another talk with the principal.
and
You don't wanna have another talk?
if I've got the majority telling me that you want to change it
But I would
differently,
say I
then
would
I
leave
will,
16,
I don't need
leave
another
next school
meeting.
year alone, because you already basically said that, right? 16, 17? Yeah,
Yes.
so we'll leave
I mean, it's
16,
already-
17
yes.
Yeah, leave
Yes.
16, 17 alone.
So what you're saying is that for the 25 individuals that have signed up for entry into 17, 18, that they should be told that they will not be eligible for
It's
Bayhaven.
25. It's not,
I mean, that's what that.
That's
But
$200,000.
there kind of goes, in my opinion, goes your argument, what difference does it make how many you're talking about, whether it's fair or not?
Well, and they may not all be even now, because there's 184, we can only take 4.
No, I
So I
get
don't
that,
know
but-
the order.
But, you're talking a fairness issue, Caroline, so what difference does it make if 3/4 of the class?
But
I'm just
the
trying to
other thing
reduce
is,
like hundreds, 25.
they can, these people can keep their spot on the list if they move to Sarasota. If they want to keep the residents in Manatee County, then they fall down on the
You're gonna
list.
open up a can of worms.
I don't.
There
That
is
wouldn't be
no
the
way
first time.
to manage that, so I
I
can't.
don't really see it.
So
Opening at 10.
they keep their spot on the list if they move to Sarasota.
By the time their child was in there?
Well, we don't communicate with them until.
Right, I mean, there's
the
no
school
way to
starts.
manage that, if they hold their place on the list.
But that's, I know
This
what you're saying, then
change
the priority,
will
then they
basically
change
say
the
that
list.
25 will, that they need to be told that their, Sarasota County will take precedence, and there's 184, or there's 158 Sarasota, therefore there will be no room for your children. I mean, that's-
Unless they have siblings from Manatee County that are attending,
I
right?
mean, I may just be wrong, but if I was a parent and I was in their place and and I was told, we can't even accommodate all of our own students, so we can't accommodate your students,
I would fight
I
you
hear ya.
tooth
Of
and nail.
course you would, because that's what parents
Because
do
that-
today. But I mean, you wanna talk fairness,
Today.
So I'm hearing at least 3 or 4 saying that's the direction you want me to make.
Which is like
Because that will be,
this.
I will change what is on their
April
website. Right now, it has been announced. I will change that if that's what the direction of the
if
board is.
Reagan was 110th on
I
the
would be
list.
really mad, I would be mad, I'm not gonna be mad, I would be. Well, but I think,
Well, yeah, if you wanted,
You're right.
kindergarten's coming up, well, not yet, but
No.
I want my child to go to Bayhaven in
I get bumped
next
from an
year.
out-of-county
Well, you couldn't even get on the list because forget it, if you didn't, those people who put their kids on the list 5 years ago and live in Manatee get preference over you. Now, they'd still get preference over you if they lived in Manatee County when they put them on the list, but move to Sarasota.
well, that's what I was gonna ask, if they're on those lists, we make this announcement, I know they wouldn't be moving, but maybe, you never know, maybe there was a plan.
They sure do move.
But that way, they wouldn't necessarily have to remove, we would just state in policy, Sarasota County residents as of X date receive priority spot. I mean, receive a priority
What
spot.
are we gonna do with the other schools?
This is the only school
I've
that
got
you
my
have.
problem at the other
There's
end.
just-
I
Well,
wanna
that's
go
what I'm saying,
out.
but no,
I wanna stay
we
in.
certainly would make this a district-wide, no, I mean.
There-
No, that's not-
Bayhaven is very unique. They're the only ones that have this type of a waiting list. We do accept reassignments, just as Manatee County and Charlotte County accept reassignments. So we accept reassignments where there is room for students.
But I think that, maybe we do need to look
That's
at
a
it
good
district-wide in that we do, we have a lot of schools that are closed to choice, for instance, Riverview, except for a few things. Do we have, I don't know, do we have Manatee County students at Riverview that choice there, but Sarasota County students can't choice there because it's closed to choice? And I'm not, that's a rhetorical question, but
I
I'm
think
just saying,
it's
as you look around
reassignment is the
district.
process, somebody from out of county, not choice. So if they, and that's a process where if there's not capacity, they can't get in.
Right.
So it's,
But
now,
we
once
have-
they're in, then we don't throw them out because we have capacity issues, but we don't do, they can't choice in.
But we do have we have capacity issues at a lot of our schools.
Right, and a reassignment would be denied if there's a process to review that.
I have a neighbor whose children are going to Ashton now, but they're looking for a house. If they move out of the Ashton district, but the kids are enrolled now, do they have to leave, or do they have to choice in? What do they do for next year? Because does she have to fill out the choice application? She doesn't know where she's gonna live yet, but
Well,
they want to go to Ashton next year.
There's allowance within reassignment that a student that's close to being a 5th grader, or that they're in their close to their last year, is allowed to stay.
Right.
That's without transportation, so they need to go through the reassignment process if they're going to be living
Or they're
outside
kindergartners.
or choice.
They can finish this year.
Yeah,
and then
it
they
certainly
get-
can always finish this year. We try not to break up or cause a child to move, but they would need, if they're not living in the district, they either need to participate in choice to continue or reassignment.
And that's
When
in
does the
event
choice
there's
window?
capacity.
February.
Now it's
Choice has already been announced, so there's only a couple of schools where and sometimes we'll limit it for entering, how many we'll take, so sometimes you open it to choice, but there's limiting factors, but that's already been announced, because we're in the choice window now, and then the option is reassignment.
And choice ends,
End of February, or,
I thought it was February 22nd, for
I
whatever
think
reason I
I
had
think
that.
it's
That's
end of
like
February.
next week.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Now,
Not-
so I should tell this mother to go talk to the office, right?
Well, if she doesn't know where she lives, there's not much anyone can do until she knows where she will be living, because she may not have to do anything. But if she is concerned that she will be out of the district, then she needs to put in her name for choice.
Even if she doesn't know where she's
Wait
gonna
till
live
move
yet.
till October.
Yeah, well, at least then you're in the copper.
Well, stay where she is till October, she's in Ashton next year, then she stays till the end of the year in Ashton, so maybe it won't be a problem.
So I still haven't gotten clarity on, and it's a change that we've already put it on the website, so I need to get it off the website if we're gonna make a change, because I don't want to confuse
I
parents.
said, you know, at least where I was coming from is that we don't have a change for next school year, for this coming fall.
No, I understood, but from then on, it
Fall
would
after
be,
that,
so it would
it would
be
be.
implementing not just, it would be implementing people that are currently on the list, whereas what we have said would not impact people currently on the list. That's the change that, for next year. So I need to know, it's really, because it makes it worse to be communicating one thing to parents, and then they've read it, and they think they understand, and then they find out later that there was a change.
Do we need to vote?
Tell us
No, I
that,
just-
no,
I
we're
need-
not
I-
voting.
I just need to get,
Don't we-
can I just get nods, because I don't want to wait for an agenda item on this. I know where Frank is, I know where Caroline is.
I'm with Frank. Yes, I always am.
Yeah, I'm always with Frank.
You know, Frank, when it comes to fiscal issues, Frank, you and I march right down the aisle together.
Yeah.
So Jane, you're saying you also agree with Frank? Okay, then I will make the change.
And where did you come down?
For you students,
Doesn't
the,
She's in the middle, she can see both
I
ways.
agree, I think I.
No, it's all right. Just
No, I
but if
truly
you-
do. I agree with the priority being on the Sarasota taxpayers.
but not for next year, and we'll still
I
do
mean,
for
I can't
siblings.
deny that.
And I'm unsure in terms of, on the employees, I don't know, I mean, that was something Shirley, and I don't recall how we were handling that anyway.
yeah.
You go by kids of employees?
Yes.
The transgender issue was discussed earlier when we were downstairs, and I don't know if you saw, heard, or whatever, but we heard from our attorney what's happening elsewhere. We heard what the Office of Civil Rights for the Department of Education said. Basically, it's pretty much follows what we're doing on a school-by-school basis, but the board has decided not to take any action at this time, to leave it as it is on a one-to-one basis with the student in the school. But we are going to be looking at the issue. We don't want to blaze a trail and open ourselves up for a possible lawsuit. But then, of course, by leaving things as status quo, we might open up ourselves to a different lawsuit. But our attorney kind of said that we probably were much better footing by staying status quo at this time.
And
Now,
I would
there are
disagree
some
with what
press,
you just
well,
said.
not all. I'll let you say what you want to say. But the reporters are here if you wanted to talk to them about it. I'm sure they'd be happy to talk to you. Do you want to comment on that? Are there any other issues we want to talk about? We were up at the Tallahassee and we
Oh, yeah,
met
I
with
can
our
hear that.
legislators.
Oh,
How was it?
They had, where they came, it was
Yeah,
almost a
okay.
little love fest up there, but it was interesting about the,
I wouldn't
I'm gonna
go
take care of that.
I wouldn't go that far.
no, they were pretending they were in a love
Who's
fest.
they?
The legislators.
Okay.
They wanted to get everything done so that they could get out in
And
time.
get the money before the presidential campaign candidates arrive in the state and get it.
Are you done with your others?
But there's some interesting legislation, you probably.
Oh, I know, I'm
have
all
seen.
over it, but did you guys get any good meetings? Did we talk to them?
We talked to, Vala had a nice conference room for us where we had people coming in and out most of the day on Thursday. And some came over and spoke to us at the hotel before we got there.
Here.
We had about 5 or 7 people that came.
Yeah, that came to the, yeah, for the breakfast.
No, we had about
several
five-
came.
We had 7 people that came when we were in that room.
Yeah, they did, so.
Yeah.
Did they talk about any of the bills going through and give you?
They did. They talked about the differences between the Senate and the House. We talked about charter school a little bit, talked to the governor's policy manager came, and she was very interesting. She
There,
talked about-
there was some discussion, I think it's Fresno that was kind of bent out of shape because they had got some report that said, you public, we're not public schools anymore either, we're government schools. They separate government schools from,
Charter school.
no, good schools, private schools.
Good
Yeah.
Yes, where parents get the bang for their buck or whatever. Yeah, but we're public schools, they don't call them public schools anymore, it's government schools. And most of the staff, the one girl's staff came, she says, yeah, I'm a public school, she says, but both of the staffers here came from private schools, which is kind of funny. But they said that, he was chastising, public schools for overspending on their, with their construction dollars. But then they came back and they gave us the information that when, well, how they figured out how they were overspending was like what we do. If the school goes in there and you might add a wing, well, yeah, you add the wing, you add, 20 classrooms, but you also have to expand the kitchen and the playground and the this and the that. And they were adding all of those costs into the student stations. And also, like, one they didn't point out, but it's when you build a public school, you have to build it for
Oh,
50 years,
Yeah,
30 years
50 years.
versus, 50 years versus the
with no
25
requirements-
years.
No requirements, just a certification through
Yeah.
the county.
It's, so they tried to show that it was different, but then somebody pointed out that, oh, by the way, he's in charge of an architectural firm, and
Well, it's been
We're-
shown that, there's some conflict of interest with the House members and charter schools, and that's
Well,
very well known.
that was there 20,
Yeah,
25 years
The Miami
ago.
Herald reprinted again a really tight article this week, and Camp Tribune, so.
So, yeah, so I read a lot of the stuff that, they send us, from what's happening in other districts, from that's where I learn a lot from it, but.
Okay.
All right.
So we have a breathing time before, where is the 2 o'clock at?